Gentlemen, welcome to a very special commentary done by Diggity. This is going to be Urbmon starting the upper right-hand corner on Impetus, I believe is the map. He's going to be the, what do I want to call that, Orange Zerg, and he's going up against Benno. I'm going to have a little trouble controlling the mouse because we're in original Brood War right here on what, it's not exactly a UMS, it is a heavy modification of the original Brood War game, which is a passion project by a programmer and a team led by Pronogo. You can check it out at fraudsclub.com. Benno going to be the white Protoss here. I cannot pause the replay, so I'm just going to have to go. Basically, what Pronogo has done is he has edited the original Brood War so heavily that there's certain games where in UMS land they kind of end up in their own category. Fastest ever map is one of those examples. Team Micro Arena, I think, is another great example. And actually, I think Team Micro Arena inspired a lot of very popular games these days, including auto battlers and things like that. Looks like we have an initial scout going in. But basically, if you're going to think about what this game is, the best way to think about it is presume that everything buggy or aggravating about Brood War got fixed, making it more of a modern thing. And then add in not StarCraft 2 per se, but you just start making things crazy. So you end up with floating bunkers, siege tanks that can fly, stuff like that. That is what this is. That is what Cosmonarchy is. And so it plays very, very differently. There's no supply, first of all. The mineral fields, looks like we're going to see a natural expansion blocked as Urbmon was trying to expand. Going to start attacking what... everything's been kind of renamed. Probes, I should say pylons, just support supply at this stage. They're not actual, and you'll be able to see actually how the Zerglings, you can see how they kind of group up as well. But so it's crazy, basically. It reminds me a bit of old school Dustin Browder, and actually the further we get away from Wings of Liberty, the more I appreciate him and what he did with the original StarCraft 2. Basically, it's just a whole lot of craziness, a whole lot of fun, and just insanity across the board. And all sorts of insane units. The tier 1 units are OP, the next tier units are even more OP, so you need to get them as well, and so on and so forth, and it just creates a lot of chaos. So right now, it looks like we have some probes blocking because Urbmon is going for what equivalently would be a Zergling Rush, although they got some nice jazz hands on these. These are Quasilisks instead. The probe going to go out and scout to see whether those Lings are in fact coming. It looks like in fact they are, but we already have a Drakadin and a Legionnaire in between. So it looks like that will be sufficient. This is a lot of lost mining time and some additional damage done. And look at the beautiful corpses here on the ground. Legionnaire chasing it down a little bit. This is the upgrade to the Dragoon. And I also should mention, while I'm in this, it's like, what are all the features of Cosmonarchy? Additional features are whenever you take a base, the minerals don't ever go away. They just mine at half speed at a certain point. On top of that, high ground advantage is no longer a 2, and these guys give a little bit of shield boost, I believe, which is a big benefit. So basically, you can kind of get steamrolling OP stuff going. Legionnaires running out. It looks like they are going to stay. They're getting a little bit further away from their compatriots because they have a higher base move speed. We'll see if Benno is able to correct that, but Urbmon doesn't have a lot of troops on the ground to repel this just yet. However, considering how spread out they are, you might be able to engage. Actually, we have a baseline zealot here as well. Also, I want to mention that high ground advantage is no longer a thing. So rather than getting a misfire chance from the high ground, you're just able to shoot further is what it comes down to, and see further as well, which is kind of interesting. So basically, what Pronogo tried to do across the board is he tried to get rid of everything that was the random chance aspects of Brood War. Instead, just get rid of all that, make it a little bit more modern, and then just add ridiculous units so that it's just crazy fun, is what it looks down to. So now, we got more Legionnaires moving up. Urbmon losing the battle at his natural expansion for the moment. Nice little... I like the concavity behind this. The 2 zealots, equivalent zealots blockading for the Drakadins here. The Drakadins now heads up versus what are originally the root Zetharoks, which are basically equivalent to Zerglings. I'm not sure if they're the next tier up or not. I'm going into this very, very blind. So Legionnaire's gone, but right now Urbmon has a massive economic lead. He's got 3 hatcheries to work with, and in the meantime, Benno still has not taken his natural. That being said, I don't know... So we got a shroud out. the Vespine Ridge, rather than Geyser, there's a Geyser, these return a little bit less, as you can see, and they kind of work like mineral fields. You can place additional buildings on top of them to make them more, basically they'll mine more when you put some upgrades on them, so you get more gas out there. But keep in mind, with just no supply blockage at all, you can just build off resources. So you get very, very large armies very, very rapidly, and things snowball out of control. But at the same time, you need to take your enemy out, because these don't go away. When you have a base, you got that base. So you got to wipe those bases out. Anyhow, we got some more Dracodons, some more Legionnaires moving out. I'm not even sure what... Look at that, they're glowing. I think that's some sort of... There's been a massive amount of spells added, and there are also quick shot spells. I believe that might have been a fear effect. Here we got Lurkers. By the way, Lurkers burrow and unburrow extremely rapidly. There's still no detection here, so that works equivalently. It looks like that one got caught and wiped out, so the Lurker's going to have to make it to the high ground. And you can see that like on-point stasis really messing up a lot of these units. Looks like able to get us around and get a kill right there. I'm not sure. We got a Hydrolith then being built as well. But Erdmon now in trouble. Despite having a great economy, hasn't been able to produce a lot of units to engage this. So Benno just sitting with the one base aggression, continuing to move out, and he might be able to take out that Shroud. We have an emergency equivalent recruit colony being built. But with that, if that Shroud goes down, it's just going to be whatever the Hydrolith then produces to try to defend against this. That we do have the equivalent of a sunken colony up, and it looks like these Dracodons are in fact surrounded. However, the Dracodons just have some massive shield regeneration, so it's just allowing them to sit in the fight. So the small units, not going to be sufficient. Drones taking some hits here and there. Looks like they're going to pull back. They've left that Shroud alone, but there is no relenting for Benno. He's going to continue to move up with additional Dracodons out into the main base, still working on that Shroud in the back corner. Erdmon building up a group, and you can just see how much more efficient these Zerglings are as far as grouping and pathing. Comparatively, still lost the Shroud, however. One of the Dracodons down, the other two trying to pull back. It looks like they got intercepted, but right now Benno, I think, is in a spot of trouble because Erdmon's managed to stabilize. If he can just get a good amount of his units out and on the field, he should be able to overwhelm Benno economically, theoretically. However, right now, yeah, and Benno's starting to get overwhelmed, as you can see, and he's starting to move the troops. He still hasn't grabbed his natural expansion. He was hoping to strike a lot more damage than I think he got in Erdmon's main, and he's getting surrounded. The advantage of these units is if they can stick in the group, you can have some of that shield buffing as you retreat and get that back up in groupings. Unfortunately, Erdmon's swarming well enough where he's not allowing them to get that distance short, that distance and that shield reabsorb. But we do have a lone zealot wandering around the field here in the background. So yeah, Dragoon's pinned into the corner. Zealot looks like it's going to get pinned, but now Erdmon's got some breathing room, and you can just see all of the resources he has at his disposal back here. He just needs some more hatcheries down, really, and it looks like he is, in fact, dropping some additional hatcheries, or hatchirosks, as it is in this. But we still don't have... We have a pylon down, but we don't have an additional natural expansion down at all. But we got a slew of gateways being built, and it looks like the tech of choice right now is in fact going to be the Dracodon across the board and try to make that work. But honestly, this kind of feels like it didn't work before, and now we're going to try harder into the same wall. A little bit concerned. We also have some of the equivalent of lurkers. Laskellisks. Hard to pronounce all of these. We have an upgrade on the Hydrolith then. I'm kind of excited to see what that's going to produce after the fact. But right now, Benno just trying to hold on for dear life. He's down a significant amount of supply right this second. Starting to move out again. We have a big grouping, including a drone right there. It looks like Erdmon feeling confident enough that he can go ahead and grab an additional base, continuing to macro very, very heavily behind this. Benno's APM faltering a little bit. We have some additional units being produced. And Benno now moving out, but again, spreading out his units a little bit too much. It looks like Erdmon going to regroup, go for a surround. He's not... Okay, it looks like he is going to be able to get the Zerglings on top of the Dracodons, which is what he's looking for. Also, the baseline Hydralisks starting to move up and be punishing. As soon as they can get that surround group fire, it negates a lot of that shield regeneration pretty rapidly. So Erdman able to slot a lot of these troops. Looks like some additional Zealots going to turn around. Erdman going to turn around himself, losing a few Hydralisks on retreat. But we already have another large grouping, including it looks like a Lurker in the midst of that, to go ahead and engage Benno. So the Lurkers, died immediately on the corner, but it doesn't matter because Benno overwhelmed, calls GG right there. Great play from Erdman and Benno. So if you guys have any interest, I want to see if we're going to launch and do another replay. I'm just going to leave it in the recording here. Let's see if we can find a Terran in here. Fortunately, I can't see whether this is Terran or not. We're going to keep hunting through these replays until we find a Terran. Okay, this is not a Terran. So we're going to go ahead and end that replay. We're going to look for... So we know, is Apo a Terran? Apo's a Terran. So now we got Apo versus Wek, or Vek. Vek upper left-hand corner, starting as the yellow Zerg bottom left-hand corner. Apo starting as the blue Terran. We'll get to see what craziness Terran can throw out. I know that Terran has insanity, like floating bunkers that can fly, things like that. So I'll be interested to see what Terran is throwing out there. So point being, if you like exploratory RTS, this is the game for you. And if you're complaining about like, Brood War with the Zerglings that run into each other and the groupings that don't work, this might also be the game for you. Because all of that is removed. And a lot of the things that typically are more luck-based are removed from the game as well. The miss shot as well, the one in 2025. We get the Fulcrum going. The SCVs are no longer SCVs, they're Masons instead. Also, worker units no longer collide with anything. Another thing that's been removed is the Terran it doesn't build problem. So the units will automatically build. If there's a mine in the way, the mine will automatically explode. If there's a Zergling, I believe the Zergling dies or something along those lines. But basically, the buildings always build in this. So a lot of the annoying aspects of Brood War have in fact been taken out. Looks like a drone's going to start scouting bottom left. We also have SCV making its way top left. I'm going to start calling them by the Brood War units, just because that is what I am used to, and they look so similar. How can I help it? But the Fulcrum, in fact, up. We do, in fact, see whatever the equivalent of a Vulture is being produced off the bat. We'll see what OP abilities it has. I kind of like this glass dome. Imagine being underneath that and seeing what the hatchery looks like under there. Drone able to get some scout is going to see a quarry under construction. I don't think that is for ComSat. I think that's for more boost. We do have lobotomy mines with this Vulture. Second one being produced. It's going to rally all the way up into the main. Mason taking some damage. I want to give a shout out to Dead Infested in chat. Whenever Dead Infested hops into your channel, you have to say hi. It's a rule. Number of the initial Zethrakor. I'm not sure how these stack up against comparative Zerglings. It looks like they can burrow and be sneaky. And we also have some Quasilisks, which I think are just adorable moving out. They really have the jazz hand thing going. Vultures making their way up. Waiting to group. Going to drop a little bit of a mine complement before going ahead and engaging the natural expansion. Keep in mind, so where typical Vultures would take forever to kill buildings, not the case here, because ooh, look at that. Wow, that's great. Stasis is them like in group right there. That's kind of a cool feature. I like that. Locks them down. So it's kind of like a AoE lockdown. Oh man, an AoE like lockdown explosion. But anyway, a lot of the previous, like in Brood War, there was concussive damage and explosive damage. That's all been removed. There's just armor and penetration comparatively. And so upgrades, I don't think there are upgrades in this actually. It's just certain units have certain amounts of penetration and certain units have certain amounts of armor to deal with that and to try to simplify things. Let's see if it looks like a little bit of a respite for Veek right there. Gonna burrow the Zerglings to hide them momentarily, but the pressure's still on from Apo. In the meantime, he's gonna drop 2 more Fulcrums down. He's got the quarry up, which looks like it allows him to build an additional Mason. To keep economically relevant, went a little bit too hard there. I should also mention that the F keys, I should start using those. have expanded. So this is me going F1, F2, and apparently goes all the way to F8 for additional, instead of just having F2, I think it's to F5 for Broodwar is the limit. Additional hatchery going down. This is 2 base versus 1, and I think if the standard play mechanics work, this is still giving an advantage to Veek. I don't know how it ends up playing out as far as this particular unit composition, like who's more P with what economics. In the meantime, we have a treasury getting dropped. This is the ministry, those are the treasuries, and we have a star pad getting dropped. We also have this. We got a Cyclops out here, which looks like it's something. Wow, look at that thing, which looks like something similar to Goliath out there. Has flat cannons, a little bit of vehicle plating. That's fun. And look at this thing. That is glorious. Honestly, this is like almost Homeworld-esque. Also, Overlords exist, but they're more for transportation and spotting here early on. And it looks like they are going to go ahead and detect those initial mines, clear them out, and pull back. The single Vulture going to go ahead and retreat. That does open up potential pressure options for Vec, but it looks like he's not going to go for it. Instead, he just wants to go ahead and move forward with his own Overlord, scout things up. I think they, don't quote me on this, but I think they might start, in fact, with the ability to drop. But we have something building out of the star pad. We'll have to see what it is. We got an anchor dropping, which is different from a standard bunker. This is actually the thing I'm most excited to see. Overlord hiding out in the corner here momentarily. The treasury is in fact up. I believe that is just essentially an additional command center. And it's going to go ahead and add an additional quarry so that Beck can get some good stuff going. And man, there's some sort of massive AoE effect happening with this. An Ansil, that looks awesome. And so point being, you can see how much effort Pronogo has put into this. It's absolutely beautiful. I'd love to see this actually end up as a standalone out there. Right now, it takes a little bit of work to get out there. We have the equivalent of a Wraith getting produced. But you can see what I mean by this isn't just an advanced UMS. It's like an entire new branch. We actually have a Goliath trying to chase down that Ovilith out of there. Mason waiting to put down, I presume, another treasury out on the field. Burrowing the Quasilisks out in the background, just in case. We have, Skabak Scab. Gotta make it hard to pronounce for the commentators. But a good amount of hatcheries. So we got 4 hatcheries up, but just off the 2 bases. And it looks like a 3rd base is going to get grabbed by Apo, which would put him economically ahead. Meantime, it looks like Vec going to go ahead and grab top right. And we got a Wraith that is in fact cloaked, and I think they might be permacloaked, making its way top left. And this is what I was talking about, that floating, look at this. How crazy is that? We got the floating bunker making its way across the field. The Ansel just patrolling everything in between. But oh man, we got Sikoroth out here, and it looks like, unfortunately, that anchor going to get wiped out immediately. Yeah, the anchor just gets decimated. And now, is there enough anti-air to deal with this? Ansel out there, losing its shielding. Zerglings and the Zekoroth going to go ahead and engage the Vultures right there, but you got the Rokor engaging from the rear, and I don't know that there's a lot of AoE, so these Goliaths are in trouble. Yeah, trying to do what they can. Looks like they have some nice AoE dispersal damage right there, but woof. Brutal for Apo, loses absolutely everything out in the field. And except he's got that Ansel still standing there. Wow, it regenerates quite rapidly. Supply actually fairly close. What are these? So the Cyclops chasing it down, trying to deal with what it can. I presume they do really well against the Rokor here because they don't want to engage right this second. But it looks like they are, in fact, going to stab the bottom right-hand corner, take out that treasury, which is still going to pin Apo to 2 bases. Something about the bounce back, I presume I need to find out what some of the... I wish there was a tech tree I could look at. The Ansel checking top right, looks like it's discovered that base, going to retreat. Vec holding the high ground in the meantime. Now, remember, the high ground... There isn't a misfire chance. It just gives bonus vision and bonus distance attack. So if you had a siege tank that was range 8, for example, it would get range 10. And if it had a vision 9, it would go up to a vision 11. So imagine that. as a nightmare for other units. In the meantime, we do have Palladium, which looks like it's the equivalent to Machine Shop getting dropped. We'll see what sort of even crazier units were produced. We have a Watchdog instead of a turret, but that might provide some defense. 3 of them in place. I don't know that that's going to be sufficient. Chewing through the Rokor. 2 of them down immediately. And now we have the Ansels moving in as well. Going to provide some shielding or at least a bit of a problem. But Apo's retreated SCVs now taking some damage at the natural expansion and getting pushed away. And there's some turrets between point A and point B. So it looks like Veek might just end up straight up losing his air fleet here. Yeah, taking some damage, trying to retreat. We do have some mines in between. There's our Phalanx, aka Siege Tank equivalent out in the map, and I cannot wait to see what... So I know that it has effectively some sort of shift siege ability. We got the Cyclops leading, which provides some sort of shielding. Unfortunately, it ran right on top of that army, and it's defensively away. And what are these? Holy cow, look at that. Those look terrifying. We got some sort of bat-like thing. Rokor on the ground, and that... So, fortunately, we had the mines down to create some sort of padding to disrupt some of this unit, but we just have an overwhelming flood, and it looks like these guys dropped some sort of Queen-like ability, which I presume... I'm not sure if it stops attack fire. That mine getting dragged into the Siege Tank, briefly disrupting it, not for long. Now that natural expansion looks like it is all but gone. You've got the Quasis just absolutely decimating everything. The SCV's still moving out, and Apo now going to call GG, or maybe Akko calling GG. Regardless, insane. Look at all the work that's gone into this. It's insane. If you guys want to check it out, go to fraudsclub.com, and you can find all the instructions. There's also an active Discord, and you have fun people like Dead Infested and Nablime and Urbon that play this. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and also Art of Turtle, shouldn't forget him. Beautiful chaos is as Dead Infested would describe it in chat. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.